The government, which was designed for the people, has not got into the hands of the bosses and their employers. The special interest and invisible empire has been set up above the forms of democracy. Woodrow Wilson. Resolved. The United States ought to promote democracy in the Middle East. I will start by defining the words within the resolutions. The definitions are provided by Merriam-Webster. I. Used to say or suggest what should be done. Promote to help something happen, develop, or increase. Democracy, a form of government in which people choose leaders by voting, an organization or situation in which everyone is treated equally and has equal rights. Middle East, the countries of Southwest Asia and North Africa. My criterion is utilitarianism, and my value is ethicalness. My first contention is Middle Easterners prefer democracy. The notions that the Middle Easterners do not value democracy is relatively common in the U.S. Some argue that for religious, cultural, or historical reasons, Middle Easterners prefer dictators or monarchs to rule them rather than ruling themselves. Yet, the World Value Survey shows unequivocally that Middle Easterners desire democracy, while 52.4% of Americans see that a democratic political system is a very good way to govern the U.S. Over 80% of Moroccans believe that democracy is a very good government, along with 67.9% of Egyptians and 58.6% of Iraqis. In no Middle Eastern country surveyed did less than 49% of the people believe that democracy was very good. These results are confirmed in another question, in which Middle Easterners in almost every country feel strongly that democracy may have problems, but it is better than any other government. While 41.6% of Americans strongly agree with this statement, it's dwarfed by the number of 77.6% of Moroccans, 63.6% of Egyptians, and 51.2% of Iraqis who strongly agree that democracy is better than any other form of government. So with those being high statistics, it affirms my first contention. So my second contention is Middle Easterners seek political reform. Middle Easterners across the region overwhelmingly say that they find it important to live in a state where honest elections are held regularly, with a choice of at least two political parties. Ratings are similarly high for this importance of the freedom of the press, freedom of worship, and freedom of speech, with the exception of Kauai, an independent judiciary. When forced to choose between a strong leader and democratic government, Middle Easterners are more evenly split, but still prefer a democratic government. Trend lines point towards slightly more support for democracy in Jordan, but gradually increasing support for strong leadership in Turkey. In every Middle Eastern country covered by the World Value Survey, a plurality of people said that a high level of economic growth should be their country's top priority over the next 10 years, compared with the military strength and political reform or environmental protection. Likewise, when given the straight-up choice in 2007 between a good democracy or a strong economy, more Middle Easterners lean toward good democracy because democracy will shape their government and therefore shape their system. So my conclusion is, a broad and overarching realignment of American policy is needed to convince Middle Easterners that the U.S. sincerely and genuinely supports democracy in the region. The polling data suggests several conclusions. First, the U.S. should be consistent in supporting democracy with each country and across the region. Second, the U.S. should acknowledge that peaceful means are the only legitimate methods of supporting democracy abroad. This would be the first step towards deconflating the Iraq War and American support of democracy in the Middle East. Third, the U.S. should accept the democratic outcomes and engage democratically elected governments. The U.S. is not obligated to give foreign aid to any government, but much less one headed by any movement which refuses to renounce terrorism. But between those two extremes, the U.S. should gain much credibility on democracy if it spoke with all democratically elected governments without preconditions. Democracy is a clear given that this is a positive and organized political system. With evidence to warrant my claims, I affirm the resolution.